So guys, just while I'm waiting for my Windows license to update, I'm going to do a very low-tech lecture on ecology. Okay, so this is just a quick introduction to ecology. First of all, what is ecology? Okay, what is ecology? Ecology is the study of environments. So we look at all the different factors in the environment. We look at the temperature, how much rainfall, the composition of the soil, the angle, the aspect of that it's facing, as in the direction it's facing. Is it south? Is it north? Is it whatever? So we study all these different things. Okay, all these different things are all different environments. Okay, like this is a completely different environment. Like that's the burn there. Okay, it would be a completely different environment to something else. But it's not just the study of the environment, it's how the living things interact with their environment and each other. Okay, and each other. So do they live on the branches? Do they live in the trees? Is the soil the right pH? Does it have the right amount of water for different organisms? Things like that. Okay, now, obviously that's underwater, so that's a sea anemone, if I say that right. That obviously would need to live in salt water, or it's an urchin of some description. It's some sea creature, but again, that would need salt water. Like there's a nice spider. He's interacting with his environment by making webs from trees and things like that, and the trees were providing him shelter. Again, if it's not a suitable temperature, that spider can't live there. All these little things, and the big one is how they interact with each other. Okay, now that's a fox there with some sort of rodent in his hands. It could be a rat or a bunny or a rabbit or something in his mouth. So obviously the relationship between the fox and the rabbit is a predator-prey relationship, where the fox being the predator and the rabbit being the prey. Butterfly there is sucking nectar from a flower, and that's a really important one because the upsidoodle. Let's go back up there. There we go. There's our. Not only does the butterfly get its food from the flower, but it also helps spread the flower, because the pollen in the flower sticks to the butterfly, and as the butterfly goes from plant to plant to plant, that pollen gets transferred, and it will create it'll fertilize new plants and create new plants of that particular species, or a different species if they can cross-pollinate. Okay, so I don't know, I just thought this guy was hilarious the way he was screaming at me. So he would have a certain interaction. I think I'll call him Fred. But anyway, let's keep going. So ecology is the study of how living things interact with their environment and with each other. Okay, now habitats. Okay, you probably know what a habitat is, but this would be like a hedgerow habitat, or this would be a forest habitat. There'd be a seashore habitat, maybe a rock pool habitat, and that would be, this one would be more seashore. This would be like a rock pool or a pond habitat. So there's millions of different types of habitats. You have millions of different types of habitats, and a habitat is a place where a certain set of organisms interact with each other as a unit. So it would have specific organisms reacting there. Now, a quick question: can you name a habitat where you might find this animal? So that's a fox. Okay, obviously. So the fox would live in any of the following. It could live in open fields, it would live in bogs, live in woodlands. And actually, a recent thing that's happened is foxes are living in towns. As cities spread more into the fox's habitat, what we're seeing is foxes are becoming more and more coming into towns. And one of the things that's interesting is they used to feed on the waste of people. Like they'd go and they'd get a lot of food out of things like bin bags and things like that. But since the introduction of wheelie bins, they don't actually have that option. Foxes don't have that option. So again, an adaptation. Some foxes have taken to actually learning how to knock over wheelie bins. 2 or 3 of them will actually knock over wheelie bins. There's a great video of it. I think it's somewhere in the UK. where 2 or 3 foxes actually knock over a wheelie bin, the compost wheelie bin, and they actually go rooting in that for food. They knew not to go near they probably did this by sense of smell, but they knew not to go near the recycling one, for argument's sake, and they knocked over the compost food bin, and they managed to get a feed there. But again, that's just an adaptation that the urban foxes had to come up with. Okay, so where would you find these? Well, that's a seal. You'd probably find him at the seashore or out in the middle of the ocean. That's a hedgehog. You'd find him in a hedgerow. Hedgerow is just kind of like where there's hedges and grasses and small trees and things like that, just in case you're wondering. That's a corncrake. They would live in damp meadows. They're actually a protected species now, because you can't cut grass or grass verge or anything like that at certain times of the year, because we have to protect them. Okay. Now, this is a bat. We're all very not too fond of bats now at the moment. Well, it's not really the bat's fault that they carry viruses. It's the way that animals are treated, shall we say, in places like China, where they have live markets and stuff like that. That's the size of the live markets actually encourages the transfer of viruses and things like that from animals to people. But anyway, don't worry about that. That's a horseshoe bat, and that's a pipistrelle, okay, which is another type of bat. That is a shrimp that obviously live in rocky seaboard. So as you can see, each animal has a separate habitat. So the place where an organism lives is known as its habitat. Okay. Now, is that a habitat, as in a lump of rock? Well, yes, it is, because you have lichens there. They live there. Basically a dump by the seashore, that will be a habitat as well, because you'd have rats, you'd have all sorts living there, crabs, things like that. Okay, so habitat, guys, has 2 parts. There's living parts and there's non-living parts. We refer to the living parts as biotic, and the non-living parts would be abiotic. Now, some non-living parts, some of the abiotic factors are the soil and the water temperature, the pH, that's how acidic or basic it is, the amount of sunlight, the type of minerals that are present, the climate, the predominant weather patterns, and that will give you an ecosystem. The living parts would be like the plants and animals, or the abiotic, or the biotic parts, I beg your pardon. Okay, now you have small ecosystems, which is literally that rock pool there is its own little ecosystem. Okay, you go to a million other rock pools, you'll find, or you won't find ones that are the exact same as that. Okay, and then you'd have large ecosystems like big massive forests and things like that. Okay, so in that particular forest there, you'd have squirrels, you'd have hares. We'll just skip on past that one. Don't worry about that. Okay, now, so consumers. There's 2 types of consumers. You have 3 types, I beg your pardon. You have herbivores, which obviously only eat plants. These 2, a pine marten and a hen harrier, or that's a stoat, I beg your pardon, they would be carnivores. They only eat other organisms. Okay, they're both carnivores. Okay, now, and obviously plants are producers. So some common Irish mammals, that's a pygmy shrew, that's a dormouse of some description. Pygmy shrew would be a carnivore. They eat insects and worms and things like that. That's a field mouse, sorry, I beg your pardon. If you want to see one type of mouse, they're all the one. A field mouse would be a herbivore, don't eat like nuts and leaves and seeds and things like that. I actually passed the remains of a pygmy shrew the last time I walked. Was obviously an owl or something got a hold of it and kind of, did a job. And these are just some common Irish mammals. So, badgers, seagulls are omnivores. They eat everything. Okay, if you ever had a bag of chips near a seagull, that's it'll eat the bag of chips. It'll eat worms. It'll eat fish. It'll eat anything. Okay, badgers will literally eat anything as well. They're omnivores. Okay, they eat both plants and animals. Like we be humans. Humans would be omnivores. That is a pine marten. Actually, funny story. The pine marten is the reason that the is actually, believe it or not, actually protecting the population of the red squirrel. And we'll talk about that later on. From the invasion of the grey squirrel, the pine martens are actually killing the grey squirrels, which is fantastic because grey squirrels are actually an invasive species, which means they're not native to Ireland and they actually cause awful damage to our red squirrel population. But we'll talk about that later on. It's a pygmy shrew is a carnivore. Pine martens obviously are carnivores. That's some type of sheep creature. Okay, a deer, which is a herbivore. That's a red deer. It's a stag of red deer, male red deer, and that'd be a herbivore. Okay, that's an otter, which is a carnivore that tend to eat fish and small things. Now, these are slightly different. So that's wood lice, mushrooms, and earthworms. They're what we call decomposers, and they recycle dead plants and animals into chemical nutrients. Okay, so we've covered a lot there, guys. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video. A lot of definitions there for you. I'm actually going to send you guys this PowerPoint as well, and I'm going to post videos so you can watch it with my my voiceover on it, or watch it yourselves. I'm also going to send you some notes. So you guys stay safe, and I'll get back to you during the week with another one on food. I'm actually doing another one, actually about 2 minutes on food chains. Okay, so see you soon. Bye. Stay safe.